Welcome to today's podcast episode. I'm Susan Donkers.
And I'm Charles Hauser. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, glad to be here.
I know we've both been on the road recently,
We
so
have.
it feels good to be back in town.
It does. Glad to be back.
Where have you been traveling?
I was in Indianapolis for the IAMC show, which was great. It was really good. And you've been on the road too.
I went to Michigan.
Yep.
And it was fantastic.
Yep.
I went to Traverse City, Michigan for the very first time.
Mhm.
Even though I grew up in the Midwest, I'd been nearby to Bear Lake.
Yep.
Which my dad used to say, Bear Lake, like that. We would all scream. And about an hour from Bear Lake is Traverse City,
Yep.
right on the lake, and it's gorgeous. And it was the Utility Economic Development Association, the utility economic developers, and then the first inaugural Great Lakes Economic Development Association event in Detroit.
How was that?
That was good. There's a group of committed, there's 8 Great Lakes states and 2 Canadian provinces. So anyone that's touching one of the Great Lakes,
Yep.
Talking about how they've got such a great heavy industrial legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's modernized into pharmaceutical manufacturing, medical product manufacturing, and the Great Lakes regions banding back together to have this regional event every year.
Wonderful.
So there's a core. There were, I think it was the first 100 people. There was a core group that got together. And I
Right.
think it's got great legs. I think it's going to just continue to
Outstanding. Well, while we were traveling, it kind of gave us this idea for our next podcast to me, because Susan, like myself, when we're on the road, or any of our teammates, and we talk about, well, what do y'all do? Where are you from? And you go around the breakfast table or the lunch table and you give your little 8-second pitch of who you are or what you do. And we say, well, we're a software group. We're not an economic developer. We're not a site selector. And it always starts with, well, what software platforms? And one is Lasso.
grow.
And Lasso touches a lot of different people, and a lot of different people have worked out of Lasso. So what we thought is we would get together and talk about the questions we get while we're on the road, because it's everything from I've never heard of Lasso, or oh yeah, we've used Lasso, or I didn't know Strata Platforms own Lasso, and
You know
all
what
of
I
these
heard last
different
week?
things. Yes.
Someone thought that Lasso was a competitor to Strata Platforms.
How about that?
And Strata Platforms actually owns Lasso.
Wow.
So there is a lot of confusion out there. We're Strata Platforms. We are a company based in Greenville, South Carolina. We are a software company. That's all we do is
Yes.
we build, operate, and deliver software and deliver excellent customer service
Yes.
for our clients. We don't provide consulting, and we own software platforms.
That's exactly right. And so we thought today's podcast would be great to go over frequently asked questions that we get while we're traveling about Lasso, about Lois, about Site Shepherd. We've got several different platforms, but this one is going to focus on Lasso because it does touch corporate site selectors. It does touch economic developers. It is a two-sided market. And it can be confusing as to who it benefits and what it does. And so let's just take it off from here, and we'll start with the basics.
Well, I'm going to ask you the first question.
Okay.
So here's the Lasso 101 question, Charles. What is Lasso?
Yeah, so Lasso is a platform that is behind a firewall. It's a private platform for economic developers and corporate site selectors to trade information during site selection projects. So for corporate site selectors, they distribute RFIs, requests for information, in a streamlined manner for them to drastically reduce their time and gathering all that information. And it transforms organizations from a reactive point of view to a proactive point of view. So that's a lot to be said with what it really means. It's it's a new way of transferring information from corporate site selectors to economic developers versus 700-line Excel spreadsheets over email that gets sent individually back to a site selector who then has to download everything and then disseminate that information. So Lasso specifically is a better way to do that. That's what it is. And so at a high level, that's what Lasso is. And as we just talked about, it's built for site selectors and economic developers. It's a centralized system so they can communicate the information back and forth privately. That's also very big. No one outside of the economic development organization sees their answers other than the corporate site selector who issued the RFI. So it's a private platform that they transmit information back and forth. You have anything to add?
The only thing I would add is I think in visual kind of 3D terms and kind of on the whiteboard of my mind, I think of Lasso as a private data pipeline. Mm-hmm. And right now, since the 1970s, 1960s, and 70s until we came out with Lasso, really the way that information was sent back and forth, the people that I apprenticed under said that they used to make 3D ring binders.
Oh, wow.
And mail them.
Wow.
And then they went to putting information on CDs and mailing those. Then it went to Excel spreadsheets attached to email, sometimes an online form. Mm-hmm. Lasso is really the first software that came out 3 years ago to leverage cloud-based software.
Yep.
Every other industry has had cloud-based software touch it. A little bit late to the site selection industry, but now it's here, and over 6,000 economic developers have replied to a site selection RFI in Lasso privately with information that just goes back to the person that asked for it.
So people are touching it. It's getting out there, which is good news. Mm-hmm. Again, we hear that a lot from people as we're on the road. Yeah, I've been in Lasso, or I've responded to something in Lasso, or I've seen something come over Lasso. And then it leads to other conversations, or the next person say, I've never seen anything in Lasso. We've never responded to anything. So again, the good news is over 6,000 people have responded. It is becoming a very useful tool out in the ecosystem. Let's pivot just a hair. Let's talk about if you're a local economic developer.
Okay.
The county of Lexington, South Carolina, or any other, doesn't matter. A local economic developer.
Oh, for 3,500 counties.
35. There you go.
3,200 something.
How does Lasso help a local economic development team respond more quickly and accurately to their site selection requests?
Well, first is it's a centralized system. So the person at the local level can assess the full request for information in one centralized system. And the first thing they can do is ask themselves, can I answer all these questions myself, or do I need my partners to help me? And there's 3 different ways to bring partners in. The questions can be delegated to a partner, they can be assigned to a collaborator, or this little survey form can kind of be sent out there to the actual person that has the answers. So think about the utilities, the workforce development boards, the transportation officials. Everyone always says economic development is a team sport. Well, this is a way to get all your team together in the same dugout, working on the same platform to respond to the answers.
So you're able to invite these people.
Absolutely.
To see the questions. And
only the questions that you want them to answer. They don't have to contend with the entire RFI. They only need to look at the ones that you've asked them to answer.
So it sounds like it's crowdsourcing the answers.
Yes. So you bring all your team together.
Yeah. Versus today, a local economic developer may get a 500-question spreadsheet over Excel.
With 10 different tabs.
Yeah.
And say, look at tab 8, row 46, and email it back to me. And then someone has to assemble all that information back together.
Correct. So it makes total sense.
The other thing is once a local economic developer has entered information about a site or a building once, and the system remembers it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's I got to tell you this quick story. Back when I was in college, I had a Dell laptop
Mm-hmm.
computer. And every time I would call Dell, sorry, Dell, I would get a different customer service agent, and they had no record at all of the last time I called or what I said or what my issue was. So it was Groundhog Day every single time I would call, and it was frustrating. And then Apple came along, and they recorded your calls, and they knew who you were.
Yep.
And they said, "Oh, hi, Susan. Yeah, we've got that answer for you, or remember this from last time, or my records say such and such."
Yep.
So Lasso is remembering the information that a local economic developer entered last time so that it reduces the frustration of having to start over from scratch every time an RFI is issued. And as long as the information hasn't changed, then you say recall all my answers, and it reduces the time to fill out the RFI from 6 to 8 hours to under 1 hour.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the first time is still a data entry exercise, but after that, it's quite transformational.
Seems very logical.
Mm-hmm.
And that does definitely seem like that would save time compared to the way things are handling it today. We talked about it before, but let's reiterate. Lasso is a private tool. The data is secure. Your data that you share as a local economic developer is not sent anywhere else. Nobody else can see it. Only the site selector who sent you the RFI can see it.
Or in some cases, state economic development organizations are licensing use of Lasso.
Yes.
Because they can't control all the different formats that every company around the world and every site selector around the world is asking them for information in. And these requests are coming in at trade shows, over the phone, over email, in person. And so the state is saying, well, I really like the way Lasso can distribute these information requests across my state. And so several states have licensed use of it. So in some cases, locals and regionals are sending that request back to their state
And that helps
office.
the state build their property database
Mm-hmm.
of all the properties. Yes. And that has been a lot of our new customer acquisition has been around that. And
I do want to ask you a follow-up, though, about privacy and security because you have a background in owning and operating technology companies.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon me. And we get a lot of requests around, is the data secure?
Yep.
And so we know that it's encrypted. It's stored in the United States.
Yeah. I mean, it's password protected, encrypted at rest. It is a completely private tool. So, we've passed audits.
Mm-hmm.
One of the big four accounting firms have put us through an audit that we passed. So I can't stress enough that people always ask about security. Is it really secure? It is absolutely secure. And I mean, I hope there's no gray area there,
Mm-hmm.
but we get the question all the time. But it is absolutely private and absolutely secure. The data is stored in the U.S. in data centers, and it's encrypted at rest. You can't break into it and get it.
And maybe the way that we should think about it is it's a typical due diligence question.
Absolutely.
Right. So economic developers are asked all the time, have the wetlands been delineated? Have you, I don't know, do you own the land? Is it zoned industrial? So I'm sure they're asked the same questions hundreds of times. So it's the same for us. It's a due diligence question. And we have all the security documentation that we share for each prospect and each client.
Yep.
So we've talked about Lasso being a cloud-based software, and we've talked about it being different from email and texting. So let's move into, can Lasso track? So if I'm a regional or state economic development organization, can Lasso track what information my community partners have submitted for a project?
Absolutely. It provides a complete record of every document uploaded, message sent, RFI question completed, so you can confirm exactly what has been submitted. or remains outstanding, which is also very important, right? So you can see that Mike from the county of Lexington has sent in 84% of his responses, and he's got these 5 attachments. So we're waiting on 16% of the responses to get back from him. So yeah, it is. If you're a state or regional, it helps you manage the information that's coming back up, and you see how much they've done. It also, to me, allows the state or region to really understand the locals that need more help, right? I mean, I think that's one of the biggest benefits is that there are locals that need help, that don't have all the information. And it's real easy, or it can be real easy to say, old Mike in Lexington is just not getting it done. He's just not responding to everything. Mike in Lexington might need help. And so Lasso can help you from a state perspective, see the areas that are slow to respond, and then help prop them up to get them going or find them the help they need. So I think that's also very important from that perspective.
Well, and from the customer service side of Strata platforms, we see that. So for our states that are licensing use of it, they are able to see who's knocking it out of the park, who's slow to respond or has incomplete information, and some things that happen. Utilities step in, railroads step in more rural parts of some of our state clients. We've got some regional economic developers who pick up that load.
Yep.
They ask us for help to do trainings.
Yep.
There are definitely ways to bring that capacity building to organizations that do need that additional help. And we're seeing that because Lasso is tracking all the responses in real time.
Yep.
It's bringing visibility to kind of a challenge that at a gut level exists, but it brings that visibility up so that you can get the organizational support to spend time and money on it.
Yes.
Right? Build the business case.
Yep. One question I know we get a lot, I know I have, is that does Lasso replace my CRM? And the answer is no. But let's expand on that a little bit. Take that away and the answer of it works in conjunction with the CRM, correct?
Yes. So economic development organizations are fielding, they're out there doing business development just like the rest of us, right? So they have leads and they are tracking those leads in their CRM so that they know who is interested in their communities. And then they need to respond to every one of those leads. And every one of those leads might need a different response. Maybe they're just asking macro level information about the state. Maybe they're just asking about incentives. Or maybe they're sending a full-length site selection RFI.
Yep.
Where Lasso fits in is after you've already put the deal in your CRM, now you need a way to go collect information across your regions, your locals, your utility partners. And Lasso is the software that goes and gets that done. It's the go-getter.
Yep.
And so after all of that information is collected back up into Lasso, and you can create a report or you can download raw data, and you send that back to your prospect, now you're just telling your CRM, hey, I've replied back to my prospect and I've sent them this report or this information. So they really work. They complement each other, and we're open. We know that some of our clients use Salesforce and some of our clients use other CRM tools. There's ways to work together, but it's definitely not a replacement. I wouldn't say that Lasso is a CRM because it doesn't have all those lead tracking and lead nurturing features that a true CRM would have. I would say that if you already have a CRM, that Lasso is a great next step.
Yes.
If you don't already have a CRM and you have a lot of leads, I would do the CRM first.
Yep. Makes sense to me. And then in Lasso as well, there are it works off permission-based responses, right? So let's talk through that. You don't have to share all information with everybody. You can delegate and pick which information goes to certain people. Is that correct?
Yes. So every economic development organization or industrial real estate broker, that's been actually really great, is when you think about all the partners, the economic development's a team sport. Industrial real estate brokers have a tremendous amount of information about community, about sites, and potentially it's one of their listings that's the best fit for the project. Almost everybody has some sort of geographic territory that they cover, and the states and regions and locals, they know what territories they cover. And so when information is distributed through Lasso, the person that is at that specific geographical level can choose who they are going to delegate questions to represent a specific area. And then when those answers come in, they go back to just the person who is the delegator.
Yes.
So it's unlimited delegation. States delegate to regions, regions delegate to locals, locals delegate to partners, and then it rolls back up, honoring the communication flows that are very important to economic development for quality control, for protocol, and just for good kind of governance of these private deals.
Makes sense.
Competitive deals.
Makes sense to me. Let's talk about from a regional or state level how Lasso can help manage communication across organizations. We talked through being able to delegate and roll back and roll up, but to me that's the biggest, or one of the biggest things with Lasso, is that the state can offer a comprehensive response to RFIs, again, from the top down. So how does it help do that?
Okay, so if I think about one of our state clients, if I'm a state project manager, I'm actually operating like an in-house site selector. And I'm looking across my entire state for the best fit for the project because I want to win.
Yeah.
I want to win the deal. And so I also have an accountability to all my regions and all my counties to give them a fair shot at earning that opportunity. And what Lasso enables a state project manager to do is allow every single person across the state that visibility to we have this new project opportunity, here's the RFI.
Yep.
And so that there's no worry about, hey, you'd never consider my location, or I don't see what opportunities are out there, so I don't get the chance to improve my community. So it's a transparent process. And then once the communities see the request for information and see, wow, they need 100 acres and it's a heavy industrial, they kind of can self-edit themselves out of, hey, we don't have the workforce, or we don't have barge access to our site. So it's at the very beginning, it's a fair and transparent process so that everyone in the state knows what opportunities are coming through, and then they can select which sites and properties, which sites or buildings would be a good fit. And then that information rolls back up to the state, and the state can choose which of those properties is going to be actually submitted back to the
To me, which is so
organization.
cool about it, is because it gives the little guy just as much of a chance to win a deal as the regions or counties that are winning a lot of deals, right?
Absolutely. And the insights, right? So if you get to see every opportunity and you get to see what the market is asking for, now you also can be informed of, wow, we're seeing a lot of food and beverage opportunities, or we're seeing a lot of data center opportunities. It gives you that insight so you can be a good real estate developer, a good economic developer, and help prepare your community for what the global market is asking for. So it is a more transparent process.
So we've talked a lot about Lasso from the perspective of a local economic developer up to regional or state economic developer, and how it can help.
But we did forget something.
What's that?
Locals always reply to Lasso for free.
Oh, yeah.
It is not a pay-to-play. The subscriber to Lasso is the organization that's going to distribute the site selection RFI, or in some cases, distribute the site readiness RFI
Correct.
to prepare for future site selection.
Correct.
The people replying always reply for free.
Yes. Very important, because my next question was going to talk about site selection.
Okay.
And why site selectors could use Lasso. And point number one, you just touched on it. They can send out RFIs and anybody can respond for free.
Yes.
Nobody has to pay to respond to a site selection RFI in Lasso.
That's correct.
So that's number one. You just touched on that. But why else would site selectors utilize Lasso? Why would it be a good tool for them to, rather than sending out RFIs the old school way, Excel, tabs at the bottom, getting 50 emails back individually and then cutting and pasting? Why would it be a better way for them to do it?
A site selector would utilize Lasso to send out their RFIs, one, because of templates. So it comes preloaded with 2 templates. One is, I call it the site readiness or the short form, and then there's the long form. So the short form, we don't really talk about a lot, but I actually think it's really strategic. Think about every event, every conference, coffee, lunch, breakfast, where economic developers and site selectors are talking about a specific site.
Yep.
The short form allows the site selector to send a 50-question RFI to an economic developer that they've just had lunch or breakfast with and say, just fill this out and let me know where your site is. And literally a pin drops on a map in the software, and the site selector builds their own in-house private map of all properties that an economic developer has told them about. It's outside of an active project, but most site selectors specialize in an industry sector or a type of project. And this is a great way for them to literally pin on a map sites that they want to know about. And it's
deeper information than just a real estate flyer. It's 50 questions, but it's not a full due diligence into the property, but it's 50 questions that most site selectors have, the must-haves.
Correct.
Got to be this many
rail,
acres.
Utilities, water, wastewater, enough information for the site selector to kind of come back and circle back to that if they have a project. The long form template is over 700 questions, really targeted for manufacturing and industrial. This questionnaire has been developed over decades. It was built off of committees at IEDC. It came out of has a background in FLOR. I used to work for Global Location Strategies, which is one part of the team that invented Lasso. The other part of the team came out of an energy utility. So the questionnaire template keeps improving, and those templates are imported into our site selector clients' tenant accounts, and they can modify them to create their own private templates. But at least there is a basis to start from. Another reason why a site selector would utilize Lasso is because there's over 6,000 economic developers who have already replied to an RFI in Lasso. So if you want information back quickly and accurately, and over 6,000 economic developers have already replied using this software, the ones that have already used Lasso are going to be able to reply really quickly. That makes you look better to your corporate client if you've got faster responses and you can get a bit more insight. Gives you a little bit more of a leg up. And then I would say a third reason is over time, as you're using these templates and this cloud-based system, your map is becoming more enriched. Your reports are better. You're tracking all your projects in the same tool. And you can start seeing some insights for your own practice of here's how long it takes me to implement my project management, and here's all projects I've ever run, and here's all properties I've ever looked at. So it's that building your site selection practice
Yep.
in a very efficient way.
So it's also, I think you touched on this, but I want to reiterate, it's almost a CRM of economic developers all over the United States.
I forgot to mention that.
Because if you're a site selector, and let's just play make-believe.
And Canada and parts of Europe.
Correct. And that if you know your client is only looking at the southeastern United States, you can point and click to the states that your client wants to go, and it will include all economic developers in those states into that response.
Yes.
So you don't have to build separate, I think of the old school way, email distribution lists.
Right.
Point and click from the people from South Carolina. Think about, and it's already done for you.
That's a really good point. I forgot to mention that. Yeah. So Lasso has templates. It has questionnaires. Then the participants section, over 6,000 economic developers have replied, but there's over 10,000 economic developers in the participant database.
Mm-hmm.
And there's Canada, U.S., Mexico, parts of Europe, a smattering of people from Asia.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can upload additional people in. You can data enter people in. But for the U.S., it is really quite enriched.
Yes.
And yeah, that's a really big time savings, especially as site selection practices grow and hire new people into the industry. They don't have that Rolodex for the sake of using an antiquated term.
Yeah.
And so the participant information is already preloaded into the system.
And I know we touched on this, but I want to reiterate again. If a site selector sends out an RFI using Lasso, it is a private response. Again, totally private. That any response they get from every economic developer that responds to them is only visible to the individuals that are specifically invited. Okay, so they can only see that. And then the information that goes back to the site selector, only they see the responses, nobody else.
So you mean that you and I are not logging in and looking at people's deals?
No, we're not logging in and seeing people's deals. I wish I had that much time on my hands if I wanted to do that, but no, I couldn't do that. It's not, you're not able to do that. So it is totally private. We can say it a million times, but I want to make sure that everybody gets that. So
I do want people to know that as the owner of Lasso, we can see aggregated information.
Yes.
Meaning the number of projects run or the geographic location from where an RFI was sent. We need to know that to operate the software and provide great service.
Absolutely. And,
So that-
and like how many people
How many
responded.
people replied. So we need to know the geographic footprint of where our subscribers are so that we can deliver excellent service and answer questions quickly, depending on what time zones people are in. So we have the typical overarching aggregation of what the software is doing, but we are absolutely not able to go into our tenants' accounts and look at what they're doing, just like any other software company out there.
Exactly. And the last thing, or I think we're getting close to wrapping this up, but I think for a site selector, the best part is when the responses come back in from the RFI. And I think that's one of the things that I've seen. If there's 100 responses to a 400-question RFI,
100 properties.
100 properties, and there's 400 questions that were submitted in the RFI, you can do the math at all the different answers. But for a site selector, when those comes back in, it co-locates all of those answers into one database, into one spreadsheet, pre-built. So it's a lot easier for them to analyze the answers that they just received rather than cutting and pasting all of the answers from separate emails to try to build a database to start analyzing their answers. It comes back into one common database.
And I would say that value is there for state and regional economic developers and site selectors. So we call it the project owner. Any project owner that's sending out the request, that's receiving all of the properties back, it's all downloadable into an Excel spreadsheet where I call it prepared for comparative analytics. It's already prepared. All the questions are in column A, and then every property is in B, C, D, E, and so forth. So you've got one big data set. And it was designed that way so that it can be you can get into comparative analytics really quickly. And it was also designed that way so that it was reducing I call it grunt work, right? That's not fun.
Correct.
I once sat in a hotel lobby in Atlanta and copy paste so much that I started getting kind of a carpal tunnel kind of cramp in my wrist.
Yep.
Right. So it is really to eliminate the grunt work. And then once you've got that Excel file, I call it the data file, you can start running it through Excel models if you're using Power BI or Tableau or any other kind of analytics tool. Or one of our other software platforms is called Site Shepherd. Yep. And it crunches the numbers for you to run the comparative analytics.
Yeah, so you could take that, again, we're talking about Lasso today, but we do have an analytics platform that can take that single spreadsheet, run it through a tool of the attributes that the site selector thinks are the most important for that particular project and get you to a score. And to me, it's shortlisting those properties that you just received from totally an analytical perspective quickly. That Site Shepherd, that's another discussion, but that's what it can do. So anything else that we forgot?
Well, we talked about it basically operating as an economic development CRM, not a lead tracking CRM, but inside of the database are economic development participants and industrial real estate brokers.
Yes.
We talked about templates. We talked about putting data in, getting data out. I would say what I'm most proud of after 3 years or so of being on the ownership side of Lasso is I'm really proud of kind of the response that we've heard from local economic developers. Things like, I wish I had this before. This really saves me a lot of time. Or, thank you so much for implementing my feature requests.
Yes. We
have our customer service team that every request that we receive, we put it into a database, and every time, then when we receive a second request for that same feature, it gets upvoted and we consider it for implementation. So it feels good to have the industry be giving positive feedback around something that was designed specifically for them.
Yeah, we didn't touch on that, but that's very important. The Lasso platform is always getting improved. We take feedback from customers that say, could you add this? Could you, whatever it is.
Yeah, distribution lists that came from a customer.
Absolutely.
Phased questions that came from a customer.
So we are not sitting idle, just trying to stick with what we've built. We are constantly iterating the platform to make it better for our customers and soliciting feedback from them so it's better for future customers. So if you're new to Strata platforms and seeing this podcast, we hope that this gives you a clear picture of what Lasso does. If you're a state or regional, and we hope it gives you a clear picture for why Lasso could be a benefit for your state or region. We do have several states using the platform today, and it does give them a way to get everybody in the state singing off the same sheet of music and building that property database from the top down.
Mm-hmm.
And so responses to site selection consultants or to corporates for finding sites, they can react better, quicker, faster, more accurate, and be much more prepared than states that have not implemented this. Overall, that's our value proposition for the economic development organizations. I think we've got a clear value proposition for what we do for site selection consultants. It does streamline the high volume data collection efforts that go into site selection. And so hopefully you learned something today. And hopefully we cleared up some of the questions that we have been getting on the road about Lasso. And so
and I would just add that if anyone has additional questions, we'll cover those in future episodes. And we're also happy to jump on a call anytime. It's a pretty open, transparent shop here at Strata Platforms.
Yes, it is. We have never turned down a call from anybody, I can assure you. So thank you for your time. We appreciate today and have a great afternoon.